So hi everyone and welcome to today's webinar. I just want to give you a heads up that I have got a bit of a sore throat at the moment. Nothing serious. I've had a negative COVID result, but it does mean I might have to drink a bit more frequently than usual. So yeah, please do bear with me today. Just to let you know, today's webinar is being recorded and I'll be sending out the recording towards, after the webinar. So you'll have that to access. And there's also going to be the chance for a Q&A at the end. So if you've got any questions as we go through, please do feel free to put them in the Q&A box. And if there's anything you want to share with the rest of the attendees, feel free to use the chat function if you've got any kind of thoughts that you want to share throughout the webinar. So today's topic is claim validation and the real consumer voice. So we'll go into what that is, but it really comes from a lot of terminology that's been going around the beauty industry recently, things like trust and authenticity. So we conducted some market research and really looked at how it kind of relates to claim validation and also what consumers are actually wanting to see in your marketing. So there's some really good insights that I'm going to share with you today. So yeah, we'll be looking at what the terms trust and authenticity generally mean in the industry, but also what they mean to the consumer. We'll be looking at the market research. I'll be sharing some about how we designed that and lots of the insights we've got there. It's a huge survey, so there's a lot more information if you ever want to hear some more about it. So I'll just be sharing some of the findings today that are really relevant to today's topic. And I'll also be sharing some examples of how people have really used the real consumer voice to put into their marketing, just to really relate to the consumer. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Carys and I'm the Regulatory Director at Ayton Global Research. So we are a consumer research company that specialises in claim validation. So obviously it's something that we're really passionate about, hence why we did this market research to find out more about it. And we have a huge panel of over 600,000 volunteers worldwide. So again, it puts us in a great position to conduct this kind of research and to share these findings. We're really able to kind of find out some really good insights from real consumers that we have on our panels that are generally product testing for us as well. So yeah, please always feel free to reach out to me if you've got any questions. I really specialize in advertising regulation and anything to do with claims and product testing. So if you've ever got any questions, please always do feel free to reach out to me. So firstly, when we're talking about brand authenticity and trust, there are certain words that are bandied around in the industry, which I think already come down to what that kind of is. So words like being authentic, being honest, performance-driven products, holistic products, transparent, trustworthy, and clean. These are really things that I think the consumer relates, but also we as part of the industry would relate to a brand being authentic and trustworthy. So really what it is, it's looking at being very honest with what your product does and communicating that with your consumer. And just looking at what the product is actually able to achieve rather than the branding. And it's something that's becoming very, very popular now. So it's something that I think consumers are very, very aware of. People are very clued up these days in terms of what they're actually putting on their skin. It's not quite how it used to be, where people would kind of purchase anything, you know, the next big brand, whatever had the best billboard or something like that. I think people are much more interested in the results that something can deliver, and about brands being very honest about what the product is and everything kind of along with the whole production line and things like that. But obviously we did some market research to really go into that in more detail. So the reason we actually conducted this in the first place, we released an article through SkinObs, which was all to do about brand trust and authenticity. And that's when we came up with this title, Claim Validation and the Real Consumer Voice, which is what today's webinar is about. Because by doing this market research, that's kind of the findings that we drew overall, is that people who find brands trustworthy and authentic, they want to hear it from the consumers and from the research rather than the brand itself. So that's where we kind of thought the real consumer voice is actually where we really see brands being able to communicate these kind of traits and aspects to their consumers. So let's take it back and let's have a look at the market research that we conducted. Sorry. So we conducted market research, which essentially is just an online survey, made a questionnaire, recruited volunteers that were on our panel, and sent them some online questions essentially that we designed. The objective was to look at what authenticity actually means to consumers, because obviously it's a really, I don't know, it's one of those words that doesn't really have a meaning necessarily, and it can be very subjective. So people are going to take that different ways. So what we wanted to do is to quantify it and go, okay, what does it, how can we pinpoint it on a mass scale on what generally does authenticity mean? We also wanted to look at what can make a consumer gain or lose trust in a brand as well. So we can really think about exactly that, like how do we then communicate that to our consumer, but also what are the pitfalls? What can people do that will really make them lose that trust as well? Because then we can avoid it. So we wanted to focus on where consumers research and follow brands as well, because we wanted to not just go, okay, this is what authenticity is, this is what it means. How do we then communicate that, and how do we reach out to those consumers in general? So we'll go through some of those findings, as I say. But to start off with, who did we recruit for this study? Because obviously we didn't want to just throw out the questionnaire just to anyone. We wanted to kind of generalize it a bit. So we decided to do a majority female panel. There's 533 people who answered the questionnaire in total. So a nice number in terms of being able to get some real quantified objective results. So yeah, majority were female, and this is because we recruited them on the basis that they regularly purchase cosmetics. So generally the female population is still the majority when you look at the cosmetic consumer. We also had the age breakdown. Now we left this open. So this is just a general spread of what we had on our panel, but it gives an idea to go, okay, well, where are these people lying? So we have got kind of a millennial age, our Gen Z and our Gen X, and then obviously some over 60s as well, but a very small percentage. So it was majority Gen X. I always get them the wrong way around, Gen Z and Gen X. Majority was Gen X, then millennial, then Gen Z. We also wanted to go across a few different countries. To be honest, to make it quite easy, we went for some English speaking countries, but also we had a mixture of Western world and Eastern world. So we had UK, USA and India. So majority was the UK, then we had USA and India. So we could get some results across the world and not just from one location, because again, when you're looking at a term like authenticity, we want to see what that means overall globally as well. So obviously the first question, what does authenticity mean to you? So this is the pie chart. I'm going to just rule it out now because people get confused when I do these because it looks like it doesn't add up to 100. It's because it's a multiple choice question, or they've said they've said a range of things, so they don't have just one answer to the question. So yeah, confusing as a pie chart, but I think it displays the results really nicely in a presentation. So before anyone gets kind of confused there, it's because they might have said more than one thing for each question. But authenticity generally means honest results. So being honest about what the results are behind your brand, tried and tested by real consumers. So not just kind of an influencer giving their say, but it being tried and tested and it being by the real consumers. Proven results for the benefits. So again, having some evidence behind your claims. As I said, it really relates to claim validation. Genuine, so people coming across with genuine views and genuine opinions and everything like that as a brand. Trusted by many consumers, so if a brand seems really popular, things like, I don't know if cosmetics are on Trustpilot, but I know obviously if you have things like review sites, so if many consumers are kind of saying that they trust in them, that's going to make it feel more authentic. Things like high quality ingredients. So if you're investing in your products, your consumers are going to invest in you. And again, sort of lower down, we've got things like ethical manufacturing and selling, good customer service. That's still an important thing. A history and story behind the brand is reasonably low, but it was still up there. So obviously, you look down and go, that's really low rated. Well, this is still something that was mentioned. So at the end of the day, even if it's not as high as being tried and tested or having proven results, it's still really important to have a history and story behind the brand because people want to see that. And also people having their own in-house product development. So instead of kind of just buying white label products, it's more authentic if people are seen to be developing their own products. So that's kind of the real top results from what people said when we asked them what makes a brand authentic. If we look at that into countries, then it's pretty reasonably the same. So there's not much to tell you between each country, but it's always good to see that you're going to be on a similar page throughout the different places you're advertising. So the UK, USA, and India, generally the top result was honest results still. There's some slight differences. For example, India didn't think that proven results for benefits were as important as the UK and USA did, but still they are up there. So yeah, not a huge amount to report there, but it's always good to know that everyone's on the same page as well. So once we'd established what authenticity actually means, we also want to find out, well, how important is it that the brands are authentic? Because that's obviously, it's all very good to say what authenticity is, but is it actually important to you? And overwhelmingly, it is very important to people that the brands they're buying are authentic. So over 90% in every single country basically said that, yes, they do think it is important. So then we kind of look at brand trust as well. So we've said about what's authentic, but the two really go hand in hand when you look at the terminologies. So then we sort of wanted to find out what actually inspires brand trust, what makes people think that brand is trustworthy. So again, we've got a pie chart with the majority results here. So product reviews, again, we kind of mentioned that within the authenticity, that being trusted by many consumers and being tried and tested, that is what really does turn people onto brands and make sure they are trustworthy. So product reviews is overwhelmingly the kind of majority thing. Having scientific evidence behind the results, whether it's from a clinical study or a consumer study, is very, very important as well. Transparency will make people trust you. That's quite obvious, I think, but basically I always say to all the brands we work with, just the more you put out there, the less scrutiny you ever come under, whether it's your consumers or authorities. Being very, very transparent about what you're doing throughout the whole product process is going to really help people to see that you're trustworthy. A percentage of consumers agreeing to a marketing claim is also really high up there with 38% of people voting it. So being able to say, again, this claim validation side, being able to say in your marketing, the percent of people that actually agree with what you're saying, it's going to make you more trustworthy because it shows that you're not just kind of pulling it out of thin air and that you've got unvalidated claims. Kind of further down the list, but still important. Got things like before and after photos, also videos could come under that. Having an expert within the brand talk about it. You see this really popularly within like Huda Beauty, Charlotte Tilbury, having that makeup artist, that front face of the brand, really communicating across. You also see a lot in things like the dental industry, dentists recommend, that kind of thing. So that can be a really good way to communicate it as well. Having lots of detailed information, again, that transparency. Having formulas that have active ingredients that, again, are quite popular, generally like trending active ingredients is good. Again, a brand founder is face of the brand. Okay, I kind of used that example already, but you see what I mean. It's really nice to have a face of the brand. A compelling brand story, and also communication on political views or current events. Again, very low down compared to the rest of them, but still relevant, sort of having this communication with your consumer. It's always about opening up this conversation with them. It's what people like to see. And again, I wanted to have a breakdown here, but you can see there's not a huge difference between male and female. It's all pretty much the same. But again, it lets us know what page we're on and that everyone's kind of saying the same thing and what they want. Sorry, my throat. So what would make you lose trust in a brand? Again, this is really, really important. Because we said about what will make people gain trust, but then, well, how do we know if we could, how would we then lose that trust that we've built up using those methods? So false product reviews is unsurprisingly at the top because we know that product reviews make you the most trustworthy. So if you're then found to be having false product reviews, that would of course be very untrustworthy. Sounds obvious, but I do remember a particular beauty brand being in the papers a few years ago because their staff had been putting in beauty reviews, and it obviously really tarnished the brand's reputation. So it is something that can happen, and it's actually something that I don't think, well, people can obviously act like they didn't know, but I don't think the management were even that aware, or certainly some teams weren't, or they're just very good at covering up a lawsuit. But either way, you need to make sure that you haven't got any false product reviews going out there that could obviously damage your reputation there. Obviously, having no evidence behind your claims, that's going to be really up there as well, because again, unsubstantiated claims, they're just not very honest or trustworthy, because you're saying things about your products that even if you've tested yourself and you go, oh yeah, no, I know that this makes my skin soften, this makes my wrinkles diminish, you need to have some kind of substantiated evidence there, because otherwise might not work for everyone. Again, misleading claims, so maybe exaggerated claims or kind of saying something that's not exactly true. If you get found to be doing these things, you could be in trouble. And obviously, it's not like consumers know necessarily if you're being having evidence of misleading. But for example, if you do get the advertising authorities come to you and investigate your products, and you're found to have those things, they do splash it across the news a lot. Especially if you're a well-known brand, it does get splashed across. So you can lose consumers, you can lose that trust. Having inconsistent information, obviously, if you've got one sort of brand, one sort of bit of information out there to say, I don't know, that 89% of consumers agree this made their hair feel silky soft, but then on another page you've got 80%, people are going to go, okay, hang on, that's not adding up. How do I know that's a true result? So having consistent information is very important, and not enough information, as I always say, as I said not very long ago, making sure you're really open and transparent and having lots of information out there is going to make you more trustworthy. Also, being mysterious or having disingenuous views are, of course, going to be up there as well. And again, we've got a breakdown this time of ages. And again, we're seeing pretty much the same thing, slightly different orders, but the majorities are still, the top three is still things about having false product reviews, misleading claims, and no evidence are going to be your top three to make you lose trust in a brand, no matter which age range we're looking at. So then we need to think about, okay, so we know how to be authentic. Well, we know what authenticity means, and we can now try and use that into our marketing. We know how to gain trust, and we know how we can potentially lose trust. But how do we now communicate this with our consumer? So where are people looking to get their products? If they want to test out a new beauty brand, where are they looking online to find them? Or, where are they looking to find them? Sorry. So website reviews are still very important. Google, obviously, generally. So that could be to do with your as it SEO, SEO, your advertising, and making sure that you're kind of easy to find online. Friends and family are hugely important. Social media, online retailers, so things like Cult Beauty maybe, or Latest in Beauty, things like that. A physical store is unsurprisingly quite low down, because obviously it's been closed for a while. And then kind of the more bottom ones, the more to do with like blogs, TV, digital influencers, magazine and beauty subscription boxes. But this is where we really started to see the kind of title of this webinar, the real consumer voice. People are still looking for what other people are saying, real people are saying about products to be able to purchase them. So certainly website reviews, friends or family members, there's still 66% of the population is still going to their friends and family. So the best you can do there is just be very, very visible to the consumers. Because obviously if one person uses it, recommends it to another person, that's still a hugely popular way of people getting put onto new products. And social media again. So really website and social media is going to be your kind of best friends in terms of what you can put out there to be able to make sure that people are purchasing your products. We also ask them then more specifically with claims, do people research proven effects when they're looking at products? 89% of people are overall across those three territories. And also saying, would you like to see the scientific evidence or consumer study results alongside the product benefits on social media in particular? So 94% of people have said yes. So I see a lot of brands that I know have consumer research results behind their brands because I've tested their products and I see them put out there, but they haven't put the percentage or anything like that. They've just said what their claims are. And I think, why wouldn't you use that? You've got this amazing data, you've paid for the study, get it out there. And the consumers are saying the same thing. So I would recommend, if you've got that consumer research results, do put it out in your marketing. So I've talked about claims a bit and everything like that. I just want to take it back and just look at the regulations behind that. Because we've talked about what the consumers want to see, but actually the industry is saying the same thing. And I think it's always having that kind of hand in hand sort of outlook on claim validation. And just really backing it up that not only is the industry telling you to validate your claims, your consumers are as well. And just put it out into your marketing and really be able to communicate that is really important. So I'm sure many of you have heard this before, but for anyone that isn't sort of hugely clued up on cosmetic regulation, the EU has 6 common criteria for cosmetic claims. Now, this has obviously been replicated in UK regulation as well at the moment, so we can also kind of reflect this either way. But I always say in every webinar I've done, I always that kind of brings us up. I always say no matter where you are based in the world, this is a really helpful break down the 6 common criteria for claims, because it really helps you think about, for every claim you're making, right, have I got these 6 criteria? And generally, if you're abiding by these, you're abiding by any kind of global regulation as well. So making sure it's legally compliant, making sure your product's legally compliant is obviously very important. But also, do not use that as a claim. Do not say my claim complies with my product complies with EU regulation, because every product has to. And if you say it, it can be a denigrating claim. It can look like other products don't comply with it as well. So we need to make sure that our products are legally compliant, but that we're not using it as a claim. Also, this picture on the side kind of goes into that as well. When people say that a product has a free from ingredient or free from claim, it makes it look like those products are those ingredients are dangerous, which is why in the EU it's really kind of frowned upon now to use those claims, and in some cases not even allowed. But obviously in certain countries it's still allowed. But be very careful where you're advertising, because you could get into hot water there. Obviously, claims need to be truthful. And again, that's what I was saying. It really relates to what the consumers want. We're seeing these brands about trustworthy, truth, everything like that, authentic. It all comes down together. So be truthful about what is in your product. But obviously, don't kind of like try and jump on the bandwagon. We saw it a lot with CBD products, basically, especially the ingestibles, which obviously isn't a cosmetic, but it still relates really well, where there was kind of lots of products saying CBD oil, all of this, and then they did a big investigation, and a lot of them had very low percentage of CBD, much lower than they were claiming, or sometimes not even at all. So a lot of people can kind of jump on the bandwagon of a trend, but actually you get in a lot of trouble if you're not being truthful there. Having evidential support, that's our claim validation, as I mentioned, having that research behind your claims. Honesty, obviously, if you're going to put your claims out there, do be honest, do say exactly what you've managed to achieve. If you only had 50 people that took part in the study, don't say you've had more. If you only had 88% of people agree with the claim, don't say, oh, let's round it up to 90. You need to be honest about what the products have achieved. You need to be fair. So this is generally seen with kind of competitive claims. Make sure that if you're going to make competitive claims, you're being like basically be fair to your competitor, be fair to your consumer. Don't kind of make up stuff that could sway them either way. Don't be misleading. So my example for the fairness claim is always, if you had an anti-dandruff shampoo and you had a normal shampoo and you compared them together and said, oh, this one removes more flakes, well, the other one has got no properties in it that would be anti-dandruff. So obviously it's not a very fair comparison. And essentially what we want is for our consumers to make an informed decision about purchasing our product. So by putting these all together and being very clear about the claims and what the product can do, they can make a really good informed decision. The other kind of regulation, which doesn't apply just to cosmetics, but applies to every product out there, is advertising regulation. And again, I just wanted to bring it up because it's got those same terminologies that we've looked at today about making sure that adverts are legal, decent, honest, and truthful. That's what they're out there to do. And as I mentioned earlier, what they're really looking at, advertising standards, they'll be the ones that are putting your kind of spotlight on your products. If you've got claims out there and a consumer goes, oh, that was inconsistent, that claim, one said 80%, one said 89%, they would probably complain to their advertising standards authority. And then they would see that obviously in the evidence, they would want to investigate that and it would come under scrutiny and you would find out obviously if that was been a misleading claim. So that's what we don't want people to do. We don't want people to complain about our products. Same as competitors. Your competitors can complain about your product, your advertising authority. And if they investigate that and find the validation does not match up to the claim and it's been misleading in any way, you can have your adverts taken down. And in some cases, it could be much worse if trading standards have to be involved. involved. So I've got lots of webinars that go much more into advertising standards. But as I said, today, I really wanted to bring it up and say that it really relates, all of this terminology that's thrown around, it relates to both consumer and regulation. So in terms of claim substantiation, I've mentioned that a few times. I just want to give an overview of what the different methods of substantiation are. If you're watching this today, I'm sure many of you already do substantiate your claims, but if you're watching this today and you think, oh, I've not done any claims, I've not bothered doing any marketing claims yet, or I've got some claims out there and I'm not sure if they're substantiated, well, there's two kind of main methods. So there's a sensorial approach, so things by sight, touch, or I can't even say that word. It's having a word today. But sensorial, basically any sensorial claims. How's the changed appearance? Can you see a change in appearance? Can you feel a change? So generally with things like skin and cosmetic claims. And then you've got instrumental approach as well. So obviously measuring things, it could either be like a Petri dish test. So it might be something to do with hair, and you want to say, does it remove brassy tones, but you're not performing on a human, you're just taking some hair strands. So it might be something you do there and you measure it that way. Or it could be on a person, and it could be something like wrinkle depth, and you're using instruments to see how much the wrinkle is increased or decreased by. And so generally we look at them as kind of clinical studies or consumer studies. And as I mentioned, that people really do want to hear from real consumers. So I'd say even if you do have some kind of claim substantiation that is clinical, having that consumer research and having real consumers give their opinion and having those percentages is obviously really appealing to consumers as well. So consumer research is what we conduct, and it's in-home user studies is kind of the main way we conduct that. We send products to people to test at home, and in that way we replicate the actual use. So if they were to purchase your product from shelves or online, then they would follow your usage instructions. And what we want to do is find out those claims that you're looking to substantiate. Do people agree with them when they're using it at home as they would usually use your product, to give you some really great data there to really show, replicate what's going to happen when they purchase it as well. Obviously, you might need some additional evidence. We can't measure wrinkle depth from a consumer, but they can say their wrinkles are reduced. But if you want to get certain claims that are instrumental, we would help with those as well. We've got partners that we use. But obviously, let's see what this actually looks like in real life. So we've got our consumers that want to see our claims validated. They want to see that evidence. We've got our regulations that say we need to have that evidence, but how do we now communicate that to the consumer? And I've got some really good examples here of some brands. So Skinny Tan, I've got them on their websites. As I mentioned, we want to see our website reviews. We want to see websites. That's where people are looking. They're looking online websites to find information about products. So they've got some lovely claims from their consumer study, which say, 9 out of 10 people said it was easy to apply. 4 out of 5 said it made their skin appear more youthful. 9 out of 10 would recommend to a friend, as well as all these other lovely claims as well. It's very, very clear. And as you can see, being an independent consumer study, we know that it's real consumers that have tested the product in actual use. There's also Hims, which is a kind of hair growth product. It's for men. Generally, they do a few different product ranges, but one of them is a hair growth regime. And what they've done is they conducted a consumer study and got the participants to take photos as they were going along with the study. So they're selfies. So again, it's communicating that real consumer. You can see people are testing it at home. It's not been recreated in a studio and looking really fancy. And they've also got their testimonials there as well. So we've got some really nice, really relatable data there that's really shown in their advertising as well. We've also got Temple Spa, who use testimonials alongside their consumer claims as well. So we've got things like about 84% saying the moisturizer gave them a healthy glow, 97% of the moisturizer feels weightless on the skin, as well as those testimonials which back that up. So it gave me my skin a lovely radiant glow that made me feel confident to go makeup free. It worked amazingly well on my combination skin, and it was left feeling soft, smooth, hydrated and balanced. Amazing results there that they can really share. And again, it's so clear that they're from real consumers. Then we can also go look at social media. So as I mentioned before, it's another place that people are really looking to get their results. So Lee Stafford have got their consumer studies there. So they're stimulating scrub. You've got things like I said, exfoliating and cleansing, just saying the claim, but then they've got their percentage as well. 81% of people agree their scalp felt healthy. So you can do a bit of both. You haven't got to just labor it too much with lots of different percentages, but you can put it interweave with it. So it's again showing that real consumer voice. No hair apology range as well. 86% of users felt their hair was healthier, softer, and silky smooth after using the products from the range. We've also got Augustinus Bader, who have got lots of different claims that they've put there. And again, it's on a 12-week consumer perception study. So skin tone was improved, calm and clarified, pores minimized, boosted radiance. And underneath, we've got the percentage of people that agreed with each claim as well. So again, really, really communicating this with our consumer. So just to summarize, before we go through to a question and answer, whether you're a startup brand or an established brand, I would recommend that communicating that you are authentic and trustworthy is very appealing to your consumers. So that's kind of the takeaway for me, is to go, not only have we found that consumers want to see, what authentic means to them, but it's very appealing to them. The brands they use are authentic and trustworthy. It's essential to use advertising claims to stand out against your competition. And again, being able to back that up with that data. So data marketing material from real consumers is going to be attractive as well. So regulation wise, we need to have claims. Competitive wise, we need to have claims, and regulation wise, we need to have claims. But using that data from the real consumers is going to be very appealing to them. I always say don't rely on product reviews as well. So we've seen that information that product reviews are really appealing, again, to the consumers, but you need to make sure your claims are substantiated. If you put out so many product reviews but don't have substantiation behind the product claims, you'll be subject to the advertising code. So it's really important. Make sure you have a well-designed study and questionnaire for that valuable data, whether we're talking about your claims substantiation or conducting market research like we did. Making sure it's well-designed is going to be really important to be able to use that data. And always present your evidence clearly to avoid scrutiny. So as I mentioned before, being very transparent about what your claims are and what the evidence came from is going to be very, very helpful when you're looking at these different regulations. Right, well, there we go. We've gone to questions. I've got a couple through now. I hope that's been okay. Sorry about my voice. My head's a little bit stuffy, but hopefully we're there. So aren't hair growth claims out of cosmetic scope? So this hair growth claims are a very interesting one, actually, because they are quite risky. Essentially, if it's a medical product problem that has meant that you've lost your hair, so obviously if you've got so alopecia or something like that, then it becomes a medical claim because you're looking at treating or curing a disease or an illness. So that would come under medicine. So yes, you're right, it would be outside of the cosmetic scope. However, if you're just saying that it makes thinner hair appear fuller or thicker or something like that, it's in the cosmetic scope because obviously it's just improving the appearance or the feel of something. So yeah, hair growth claims are very, very risky, and they actually require a whole lot of evidence, whether you're going cosmetic or medicine wise. So we've had a lot of brands come to us and we've had to use clinical studies as well as consumer studies to substantiate them. But if you want to go down that route, it's something that we can help with as well. But yes, you have to be very careful. The CTPA have some amazing information about what clarifies the product as a cosmetic and a medicine, and it's all to do with the different the presentation of the claims, the presentation of the product, what you're saying you can do. So yeah, there's definitely ways you can have a hair growth product as a cosmetic, but you cannot say it's treating an illness. So I think I kind of went round on a loop there, but I hope that's answered your question. So hi as well. So what is the Ayton recommendation in terms of threshold to have the claim approved? I mean the recommendation taking account a real benefit perceived and not necessarily regulatory rules. So I'm gonna have to read that again to get my head around the question. Recommendation in terms of having a claim. So do you mean in terms of the percentage of people that agree with a claim? I'm going to start answering that anyway, just in case, but if you want to clarify, that would be great as well. So in terms of if we were looking at a claim, let's go back to radiant skin, for example. Any kind of claim, we say that about a 2/3 majority need to agree with it to be able to make the claim. So we usually put a 66.6% threshold on that. Now, a lot of brands like to use higher because there's no kind of set regulatory rule, but different platforms do different things. So for television in the UK, for example, it has to be over 70%. So a lot of brands will go for 70% as a flat rule in terms of the number of people that need to agree with a claim for it to be able to. Sorry, just checking. You just said it. I've got the question right. So yes, that's exactly it. So we say a 2/3 majority, but it can depend on the brand and it can depend on what you're looking to use the evidence for. So yeah, we can always help with that in terms of, we always look at a different claim in terms of what you're going to use it for, where you're going to use it, and what's the claim as well. And then we can give a good recommendation there. But generally, again, going around in a circle, 2/3 majority is the one. So currently consumers are living in a context of full of information, social media, and etc. I agree. What is Ayton's point of view in terms of having assertive research that is not boring, full of repetitive claims and tiring scales? So I guess if you mean in terms of the actual research that the people are doing, so in terms of doing the questionnaires there, generally, yeah, repetitive claims are not good. So I've actually got a whole webinar which is about questionnaire design, which I can share with you if you like, when we're looking at consumer research, what can make it really appealing to people to be able to get the best information. But in terms of being, putting your actual information out there, I think that's why consumer research is really good, because obviously it's nice to have the clinical research to say, scientifically, what can this product do? But the good thing about consumers is if they can agree with those more marketing claims, more exciting claims, it could be something like, I'm not a marketing person, so I'm really bad at these, by the way. But if it's like, my hair was so shiny, it looked like a mirror or something like that, that's obviously something that's not scientific, but that's a really bad claim, by the way. But obviously it's not something scientific. But if we got consumers to agree with it, we can do that through consumer research because it's a subjective claim. So that's kind of how we do it there. But yeah, I just saw your answer there to say, can we share the questionnaire design? If you just pop me an email after this, so I'll share the webinar recording, which I have my email. Just pop me an email and just remind me to send you that, and I will send that over as well. So where can we find the 70% threshold rule for UK TV? That's actually a very good question. I'm pretty sure it's quite public information, but I only know because I have a contact who works for Clearcast. So they've told me before what all the regulations are in terms of what we need to be able to get our clients' claims on television. But I'm sure if you go on the Clearcast website, they'll have some information on there, some basic information about the regulations that are needed to get onto TV as well. But yeah, certainly something that we get information directly from them for as well. Well, thank you so much for all those questions. I can't see any more coming in now, so I'll start to round up the webinar. But as I mentioned, recording will go out in an email with my contact information. So please do feel free to reach out to me if you've got any further questions or if you want to see any further of the webinars with the questionnaire design or anything like that. So I just want to say as well, before kind of closing up, that we are sponsoring the IFSCC Congress, 32nd Congress in London 2022, and you can sign up to get registered there as well. So please do come along. It will be lovely to see everyone in person. I do have some upcoming webinars. I have next week making skincare advertising claims, and the week after making makeup advertising claims. So we'll be looking a bit further into claim substantiation for those particular product types. And yeah, I'll be giving some recommendations there. Sorry, I've got full of cold today. And then I've got a spotlight on wellness and emotive claims at the end of next month as well. So again, looking at those more holistic claims, as I mentioned earlier, more kind of marketing claims that aren't necessarily objective or scientific, but a bit more subjective. There's my contact information there, but I'll be emailing you all anyway. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope my voice hasn't been too raspy for you all, and I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I'll hopefully see you in our next webinar. Thank you.